This is part 2 to the Sparton 254 antique radio. It's about 90 years old. In part 1, we got the radio functional, just to prove that the tubes and stuff were okay. That was the big thing. Once I proved the tubes were okay, it was now time to sit down and replace all the parts that need to be replaced, clean up the wiring a bit just to make sure that nothing's going to short out, and get the unit back in operation. So here's part 2. So this is part 2 for the Sparton 254. I'm going to change out some more of these caps here that are bad, change out that second electrolytic, change out some more of the paper caps, and then we're going to deal with covering some of the wires that could possibly short out. I'm not going to replace, I might change some of the wires out, the ones that are easy to get to, but other ones I'm just going to cover them up with insulation. As the owner of this wants it to to operate, but he wants it to be relatively safe, but he also doesn't want to spend a whole bunch of money. So things like these ones here, wires that I can change out easily, I will change out. New line cord and so forth. We'll start by changing out these paper caps here, the remainder of the paper caps that need to go. I'm not going to bother with these ones on the tone control because these ones here are not going to cause any issues as far as operation. They're not going to cause any degradation or anything, even if they were leaky. What the tone control wires do, if you look here, they basically filter out the high frequencies to ground. So basically they're connecting the plate output here through the capacitor, through this other electrolytic here to ground. So they're not going to cause a tube to go into an overbiased condition, even if they were bad, but chances are the tone control is not even going to be used on it. All they're doing is just bypassing the higher frequencies to ground, is what they do. So that's not so critical. But say the ones that are in the actual circuitry themselves, they'll be changed out, as will this third electrolytic cap here, and then we'll deal with the wiring and see if we can make this thing perform half decent. So this one's a 0.2 microfarad. I got a 0.22 to replace it with. So we'll just clip this out of here. If I can get in there. Change this one out. We can measure it too. I bet it's bad. We'll just measure it for leakage, but I'm sure it's probably bad. Because it is the type of cap that would go bad. And watch, this would not be bad. For 60 mega ohms, this one might be okay. We're changing it anyway, but you can see this one's. What do you know? I actually found one that was okay. Looks at that anyway. Anyway, we're going to change it out. We're going to change both of these two here on this. Actually, these ones here aren't even in the circuitry that would be problematic. These are right tied to the transformer. This is a ground wire, this one. So I covered one of these wires. These were wires that were twisted together, and the insulation was all cracking on them. So I untwisted the wires just coming off the transformer, and I put heat shrink tubing over one of them. The other wire here, it can be suspended away from touching anything else. So I think we're probably okay on this one because it's not going to touch anything. And basically, what I'm going to try to do is any of these wires. Some of them I'm going to obviously have to put covering over them, like this one here, for example. The ones that aren't at risk of touching, I'm not going to touch them. As long as they're not at risk of touching anything else. If they're at risk of touching something and the insulation's damaged, I'm going to cover them up. But I've got to try to keep the repair cost down, right? So to do minimal amounts that I have to, just to make this as safe as it can be, for a 90-year-old radio. I mean, you could spend, if someone wanted to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, you could go and hand wire every single wire in place, but that's just not cost effective for what these are worth, because they're not worth a lot of money. One of these in good condition might be worth $150, $200, right? So in broken condition, they sell all the time for $20 to $30 all the time, every day. I mean, I've picked up a number of them for under $50 that I've had to do restoration work on. So we're going to try to make it as safe as possible, make it functional, and just keep it safe. And keep in mind, this is it's just totally enclosed in a metal box. So even if something were to short out, it damaged the components before it's going to really pose a fire hazard. This is not sitting on the wood base. This is actually enclosed in a metal box. Got a couple more caps to change on here. That I think this one down here needs to be changed as well. There's another one back here. I don't know how critical that one is. And then that other electrolytic, and then we'll fire it up again and see how it's doing. Part of the challenge is you sometimes have to move things out of the way just to get to some of these caps. I think this is one of the last critical ones that really needed to be done. This is a bypass cap, or I should say a blocking cap. Well, a blocking cap, coupling cap. So I'll pull some heat shrink tubing up over there, and then we'll heat shrink that down. And then I can put this tuning capacitor back into place and reconnect it to this wire, which I had to disconnect just to get to it. reconnect and make sure nothing is touching. Bend things back where they were before I had to relocate them to change out that cap. I have to make sure that nothing's going to touch. Now there is another cap down here. That I think that's just an AC bypass. That one, that 0.2. Looks like it's going to the AC line cord. So that one is probably not critical. Yeah, that's going to the AC line cord, so I don't think I have to worry about so much about that one. It's not going to create any type of an issue as far as the unit itself, the safety of the unit. The chassis of this thing is obviously isolated from the user because it's got wooden knobs, so if that cap were to short and the AC line cord was reversed, you could have 120 volts on here, but when I put a new cord on, I'm going to put a polarized cord on, and the neutral is going to be the one that's going to that's going to end up through that bypass cap to the chassis anyway. So that would be that's that one right there, right? This cap here. I'm not going to worry so much about that one. It's a 0.02. And again, I'm going to make sure that right now it's on a non-polarized cord, so there's a 50-50 chance that that could have line voltage on it. But when I replace the power cord, I'm going to put a polarized cord on. So there's no chance that that cap is ever going to have any potential on it anyway. It'll be tied to ground. So not too worried about that one. I think I've got most of the ones. I still have to do this last one for this electrolytic here, which is not a very big one. That's just a regular, it's a, what is it? It's a 10 microfarad, I think it's like 25 volts. What's it say on the side here? It's a 10 microfarad at 25 volts. So that's a pretty simple one to change. And we're just going to put it in the bottom here. It connects up to this this wire here, and it'll tie down where these other ones are to this. It's not ground. It's a side of the power transformer, which is, I showed this in the last video. It's right here, so it goes through a 100 ohm resistor R9 to ground, so it's not to chassis ground, it's to this common point. But again, it's a small cap, so that's the cathode follower. And then I can power this radio up. As you can see, this wire here is in a pretty sad shape, so we're going to throw some heat shrink tubing over this one all the way down as far as I can, just to prevent this wire from shorting out against anything else. And then I can reconnect that up to the volume control again. I don't know why they had it twisted. I don't know if it's doing anything, but we'll just kind of put the twist back in a little bit. I won't even bother to heat shrink this down. This is just a piece of tubing to cover the wire. Right, so that's just to prevent that from touching anything else and shorting anything else out. This one here probably also wouldn't hurt to, the insulation's not coming apart on this one like some of them. Some of them you just touch it and it falls off. So if the insulation's not all cracking and falling apart and it's not touching anything and it's not likely to touch anything, I'm kind of leaving it alone. Because I figure that the less I have to touch on here, the better. But I am putting heat shrink tubing on, obviously, wires that can touch others. Trying to keep everything as well protected as I can. This is a ground wire, this one here, so I don't need to worry too much about that one. This is a hot wire, that's why I put the heat shrink tubing on this one, because it's kind of going down to this capacitor. That's the B+ filter. We're going to change the line cord out. I'll do that. and find a newer one, because this one here, I mean, the fellow that owns it actually spliced this. He said it was just held together with tape, but these type of wires just are, I mean, this is a fire waiting to happen. I don't know that it's actually damaged, but it needs to go. This whole entire line cord needs to go. This is the wire that I replaced. Actually, this is the wire going to the 10 microfarad cap that went to that 3-parter that I cut off up here. But you see, look at this. You just bend it. You see, and it opens right up. This is the problem, right? You see, this is the problem with this old wiring. Even though it's got like a cloth insulation on it, the rubber underneath it has deteriorated to the point where you just touch it and it breaks. So that's why the heat shrink tubing. All right, time to tackle the power cord. I'm going to replace it with a standard 3-prong connected cord. That way I could ground the chassis. I don't know if it's necessary, but I can ground the chassis. Get rid of that fire hazard. I mean, yes, for safety, grounding is always a good idea. But whether I'm going to be able to or not, that's the thing. The thing that concerns me is that for grounding, I might create a ground loop. It might be okay. We can try grounding it, and if it doesn't work out, then I can always cut the green wire. That's the nice thing about being able to do retroactive mods like this, is that, you know, if something doesn't work, you can always remove it. So you don't have to have it grounded. But if I can ground this and it works, then great. I'll pull the strain relief in, which is just a knot in the end of the cord. That's to stop it from getting pulled back. And I might need a little more slack in here. Tighten it up real tight. We want to get those electrons going around in a circle, get them confused. My dad used to tell me, don't tie the cords in a knot, it'll get the electrons confused. It'll slow it down. I think it was when I was 5 years old, I probably believed him. Okay, now neither of these were polarized, but I know that the switch has the black wire on it, and the white wire goes down to this lug down here, and then there should be a ground lug down on here as well. So let me just get the wires prepped, and we'll get them connected. The other wires down here. Hard to get to. Good thing I can solder both hands. Okay, that's the old AC cord out of the way. Tin the wires on the new cord and get that into place. Okay, that's power connected. Now the ground, I'm thinking there should be a ground lug on here that I can tie down to. Let's see where the closest ground lug is. I think it's right here in the middle. I'll probably tie down to that one and just check that. I'll bring the fluke meter out of retirement for a little bit here just so I can test that. Just because I haven't used it for a while. And we'll verify that this middle lug here is ground. No, it's not. Okay. Where's ground? I for sure thought that was going to be ground. Maybe it's this one. That's the ground lug there. Okay. You can take that one over to this middle lug right here, which has nothing on it, but it is a ground, so we can ground it right there. The guy that owns it is going to say, "Oh my God, you put a grounded cord on it." Verify that by ground, right? This is the neutral side. Neutral side goes to here, which is not grounded, as you can see, because there's a capacitor that blocks, and then the hot side goes to there. Okay, I think it's time to power the radio up and see if it works.
Into the States, that's 5 to 10 minutes. Northbound also 5 to 10. And looking at the point of crossing, that's also only about a 5 to 10 minute wait, both directions. For the border crossings, please keep in mind that border wait times are...
Sounds like it's working to me. How about without an antenna? I probably won't get much without an antenna. Oh, well. Even without touching it, if I just put a short wire on here,
Arena area, but that's pretty typical. Lionsgate Bridge is next. Let's have a look at our lanes. 2 lanes north and 1 lane south. So just off the north.
I wonder if I've got a proper AM antenna around here. I might have an AM loop antenna I can clip on it. I just connected to a roll of solder.
Queensboro Bridge,
just
that's
hang
not a
it.
bad route right now. Next to no
I got
volume.
about 3 feet of basically antenna on here.
There and then get to South Vancouver. However, if you want no slowdowns and if you don't want to be sitting in the lineup at all right now, that is probably your best option. Moving to the Massey.
So it turns into like little poems.
Connector looks to
/membership. History is now. Spring is the time of renewal and change.
My test transmitter is overloading it. Take the antenna off for that. I'm just finishing up this right now. This is the other radio playing. This is just the output from my AM transmitter that I'm broadcasting just for testing this. But I'm just finishing up this, putting some zip ties in so that the cable doesn't move. And we're going to tie stuff down here, and then I'm going to put the bottom on it, and then we'll do some final testing.
Hi there, Yvonne Shell in the Gold Sky Tracker.
So I've got it connected to a piece of wire that's about, I don't know, 15 feet long, I guess. Just runs over to the door. And there's some this wire. I've just got it running over to the door. It's not up in the air or anything. It's just kind of just draped over stuff. And as you can hear,
These on and off showers on Wednesday with a high to 14 degrees.
it's pulling in signals great. Well, the local signals anyway.
However, is quite the
Let's tweak
challenge,
the antenna
especially if
trimmer.
you take the Oak Street Bridge. There is road work taking place on Oak Street just north of 70th Avenue with
Well, that's a little better.
so the Oak Street Bridge northbound is backed up past
MC with freedom.
Again, this is not a real long antenna. It's just a short piece of wire. The light bulb even works. It wasn't screwed in all the way. Excellent. I'm expecting that kind of noise. That's quite a distant station.
Ants or other pests taking over your space? Contact Web.
Turn off the transmitter. Well, there it is, receiving my test transmitter that I'm just picking up one of the local FM stations, so I can't leave this on. I'll put on some royalty-free stuff so you can listen to it. There we go. It's got lots of volume. Of course, lots of distortion too, but... I think for a almost 90-year-old radio, I think it was 1934 35, that makes it either 89 or 90 years old. I think for a radio that's 90 years old, this unit is actually in pretty good shape. Cabinet-wise, it's not too bad. I've seen a lot worse, and I've seen better too. I've got some ones in really good shape that I've shown off. But I think that for the age of this radio is working as well as anyone can expect it. I do not have an antenna on it now, although the transmitter is just on the other side of the shop. It's only a couple hundred milliwatts, but still, it's a strong signal. With just a short piece of wire, I can pick up some of the local stations. There's a lot of noise around here. We get a lot of electrical noise in my neighborhood. It's something that drives me absolutely crazy. I can't even use my HF set because I can't hear anybody. I mean, it's just like where I am in absolutely the worst location for RF probably in the entire city. It's because I'm down near the water, but I'm not right on the water. But I got a lot of electrical noise. There's a lot of electrical noise 24 hours a day, and it's raining today, so the electrical insulators on the poles are doing their little old Corona arc, so I get a lot of but it's working. So I've got it all back together, and I've gone as far as I'm going to go on this, and that was to replace the caps that needed to be replaced, and also make it safe. Insulate, place protective insulation over top of the wires, and cut some of the ones out that were bad and replace them, which I've done. But I haven't done them all because, again, getting into a complete total restore like that basically requires dismantling the entire radio and reassembling it all. That just gets to be cost prohibitive, and I'm trying to keep the cost down for the fellow that owns this. Anyway, hope you enjoyed part 2. Again, it's back together, working. Not sounding too bad at all. Here's just me touching the wire for an antenna. Not much of an antenna. I guess it Picking up some of the 4-inch stations.
That's on Sportsnet. Sports at 15 and 45 traffic. Sportsnet.ca.
Even with just that.
News Network is here live.
Even with just that for an antenna. It's working.
Girl and kids need food, and food needs...
There's another station in here that's really weak.
Well before the pandemic.
Plenty of here, Miami jerseys and Argentina Messi kids, but way more Whitecaps blue and white. There's obviously
Football
plenty
game.
of frustration for fans.
Social nuances Bill is getting at are still with us. Okay, to trust your camera.
I'm the antenna. I'm the antenna.
For a much lower price than they had originally. Then they'd go to the game.
Despite lack of star players, Miami managed to beat the Whitecaps 2.
All right, I think this one's a success. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.